So I made a report on YouTube 27 minutes ago saying that Jalen Brunson is untouchable in trade talks involving Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the team will turn towards Cat, OG, and Mitchell Robinson. It's interesting to see Mikhail's name not in there. So I just did some research and I see that based on Mikhail's August 1st signing date, that puts him on the table to be traded as of February 1st, which is days before the February 5th trade deadline. So the Knicks technically can trade Mikhail in a package for Giannis. I don't think they'd want to do it right before the trade deadline. In terms of the offseason, though, which I think is more realistic, is that his salary goes from $24.9 million to $33.5 million, which you think, oh, he's more money, teams aren't going to want him. But it's more so the fact that you can match salaries easier. I know he's only been here for a season, but the more time goes on, the more I start to really kind of regret as a Knicks fan the team trading for Mikhail because they had to pay him. They had to give up 4 or 5 first round picks. And although he's a good player, he's not a great player. I feel like the Knicks honestly didn't need to make that move. And don't get me wrong, I loved it at the time. Not really how much they gave up though. Like I love Mikhail himself, but it just seemed like an overpay. And now with Giannis legitimately probably leaving the Bucks sooner rather than later, if the Knicks had those assets and also they'd have more money to sort of work with, Giannis, it'd be a lot easier to get him here. But because they don't, well, now we're talking about OG, Mitch, Cat's names being thrown around. I was asked yesterday by someone, if you're the Knicks, would you trade Jalen Brunson for Giannis? And I was like, absolutely not. And they're like, why? It's Giannis. You get better. And I get that. But Brunson has a ton of connections. When the game's on the line, he's at his best. I just don't see the Knicks winning a championship without Jalen Brunson. If you're pairing Giannis with Brunson, I get it. But just moving Brunson would literally make no sense at all. He's been the one guy that's remained consistent. Tibbs, Julius Randle, the guys that have sort of moved on, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly, like there's always been kind of something about them, but Brunson consistently has been great. I mean, he's put up numbers that we haven't seen since Michael Jeffrey Jordan in the playoffs, so he's got to stay. When I think of the Knicks, when I think of New York City, I think of Jalen Brunson, man. I'm a huge sports guy, obviously. I'm sure other people would feel differently. So got to keep Brunson. The Knicks will keep Brunson. But that report really shouldn't matter to you because it's not that surprising. What actually probably will surprise you. So, a report came out from the New York Times that the Knicks are known to have concerns about the possible roster imbalance that could result from a deal for Giannis. They absolutely have interest, but were quite perturbed by the tumult caused by this latest report. A couple of weird words. I know that perturbed means confused. I don't know what tumult means. I'm gonna have to look that up. So it means a loud, confused noise. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It certainly shook the NBA when that report came out. If the Knicks trade for Giannis, we have to actually ask ourselves, do they get better? Like, seriously, because the roster is going to be just a little bit dysfunctional. Right now, the Knicks have the best roster they've had maybe ever on paper. I know paper doesn't win championships, but like, have the Knicks ever had a team this good? A top 10 player in Jalen Brunson, a top 20 player in Cat. Mitchell Robinson, we know what he brings, the best rebounder in all of basketball. OG's an all NBA defender who can get you 20 a night. Mikal Bridges, say what you want. He's still very good. I mean, he's an elite corner three-point shooter, the best point of attack defender. Well, arguably Deuce, but okay, first or second best. A guy that gives you 18 to 20 a night, can play within the flow of the offense. Also, I don't think Mikal was used very well under Tibbs. I think Mike Brown will definitely have something more coming for him. Mikal had 10 points in the third quarter last night. He didn't miss a shot in the game before that. Of course, it was 4-4 from the field. So I like where the Knicks are at. Not to mention they've got Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Jordan Clarkson. They've got Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, this bench is super deep. The Knicks were the worst bench of basketball last season. A lot of that had to do with they just didn't play. Landry Shamet appears to be coming back. This roster is absolutely constructed to win. And if the Knicks stay healthy, I feel very confident that they will come out of the East. I'm not saying they'll win a championship because the West is no joke. If they run into Denver, if they run into OKC, Houston potentially could be kind of dangerous now with Kevin Durant. There's a lot more competition in the West. But I think the Knicks can get to the finals, and I think they can give anyone a run for their money, even OKC, who won the championship. The Knicks had leads against OKC several times last season when they played them and unfortunately squandered it. But again, the starters got tired because Tibbs didn't use the bench. A lot of people will die on the fact that Tibbs was a great coach. He was a good coach. He was not a great coach. Mike Brown is absolutely going to change everything for this organization. But we have to understand that if the Knicks were to get Giannis, they'd lose all their picks. They lose depth, And it's asking actually even more out of Jalen Brunson. Everyone's going to be like, oh, well, now Giannis is a guy who can take off the load for Brunson. But you can't just have two guys, man. You need to have a complete team. I know a lot of people hate the year the Lakers won the championship in the bubble, but they had LeBron and AD, and then they had several role players like Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma and Dwight Howard and Rajon Rondo. That's what I want to see the Knicks do, is have those two studs, which they do in Brunson and Cat, and then have a lot of guys around them. That Lakers team defended at an elite level. They were awesome. In the Knicks, it's just a matter of depth, defense, and versatility. And right now, the Knicks certainly check all three of those boxes. The Knicks didn't run a single play in preseason yesterday, which is why they struggled. I think they had 38 points in the first half. At the top of my head, it was not very pretty. But that's actually a benefit to the Knicks because they're playing a read and react type of offense. And once they actually start running sets and plays, it's just going to be even easier. But just be patient, guys. I'm telling you, be patient and you will be rewarded. And I know that sounds absolutely preposterous to tell a Knicks fan that because they've been all but patient. But look where the Knicks have gotten since they brought in Brunson. Of course, they did beat the Cavs. And then the year after that, of course, they beat the Sixers. Last season, they end up beating the Pistons and then going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So the Knicks have gotten better literally every single season. They've added more pieces and their players have taken leaps. But this time around, this is the first actual roster the Knicks have had where they've entered the season as a championship contender. Like last season, the Knicks they weren't really a championship team to me. I mean, I honestly thought the Knicks kind of overachieved. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I didn't really have a lot of faith in them getting by Boston. I did pick the Knicks to win because I'm a Knicks fan, but I didn't feel really too great about that series, and thankfully they proved me wrong. But this time around, it's like nobody wants that smoke. I can promise you that. And that's why the Knicks should keep this team. I mean, if this team stays healthy, guys, they're going to be nearly impossible to beat 4 out of 7 games. Like, I just don't see it happening. Man, I absolutely am in love with this roster because you can do so many different things with it. Like, if you want to go defensive oriented, well, you can take Brunson or Cat off of the floor. And let's say you take Cat off the floor. Well, now you got, of course, OG. You've got Mitch and McHale and Brunson. And in terms of who could slide into the 4 or the 5, well, potentially you go with, I wouldn't put Josh Hart out there just because like Mitch and Hart would be awful, but you could go with like maybe Yabusele and Mitch. I think could be interesting. Deuce McBride immediately comes to my mind. Is you go Brunson, Deuce, McHale, OG, and Mitch. It's a little bit of a smaller lineup, but I think that could be super effective. See, I think the Knicks are actually at their best when they don't have Brunson and Cat both on the floor, and that's the biggest argument to why I'd want them to get Giannis, is that if they're able to get Giannis without giving up a ton, then they obviously should do it. But the only way I'd actually want Giannis would be if Giannis says, hey, look, I only want to be in New York, which I think honestly could happen. If the Bucks just trade Giannis for the best package, he's more than likely going to end up in Brooklyn, which would be a nightmare for the Knicks. It wouldn't really matter that much because the Nets are still going to stink. I mean, they'll make the playoffs like it's Giannis, but nobody's going to fear them at all. But if Giannis genuinely wants to win, which we know he does, he wants to be in New York because the only team he took serious was the Knicks this offseason. That was reported by several people. Then we can talk. Because again, I love this roster, but we have to be realistic here. Brunson and Cat are not good defenders, and when they play together, there's always going to be something for an offense to exploit, and you never want that as a championship team. You want every single player to be able to hold their own. The Knicks just can't do that. But if you move Cat for Giannis, all of a sudden everything changes because now you've got arguably the best defender in basketball in Giannis. Mitchell Robinson next to him is just ridiculous. Nobody's scoring on that. And then you have, I don't think it would just be necessarily Cat. I mean, you'd probably have to give up something else. I mean, it'd probably be Cat, Picks, and Dottie or something like that. That's a horrible offer for Giannis. But again, the only way the Knicks should do this is if Giannis says, hey, look, I want to be in New York, nowhere else. Get me over there. And then, here's Cat and whatever else we can get you. But like when you start to talk about, let's look at some of the packages, right? I mean, let's look, guys. Okay. So Cat, Dottie, a 2028 first, a swap in 2030, a 2032 first-round pick swap, and 7 second-round picks. I would do that. It's still a good amount, but absolutely I would do that for Giannis because if the Knicks win a championship, nobody would care about like those picks. I mean, sure, the future would definitely not be as bright, but who the hell cares? The Knicks need to win a championship. That's an awful trade. I'm not even going to waste your time with that. What else do we got here? Okay, Giannis and Tobias Harris to the Knicks. Cat and 4 first-round picks to the Bucks. which aren't our picks. The picks are coming from the Pistons because they'd be getting Mikhail and Mitch. See, that's I think the Knicks' actual true concern is it's just not. I'm not doing that. Like, let me know if I'm wrong here, guys. Cat, Mikhail, and Mitch for Giannis, and you take on Tobias Harris, who is a horrible contract. I mean, Tobias Harris isn't bad, but he's on an awful contract. I just can't do that. See, the one trade I'll do is like all the picks, Cat and Dadier. Like that. Now we're talking, man. Oh my god, that would be a ridiculous roster. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. Like when the Knicks got Melo and Melo was going into free agency, the Knicks never should have made that trade. Like that was one of the worst decisions they made. I love Melo, but they should have just. It's not even on the Knicks. It's not more so on Melo. Melo should have just waited until free agency. I mean, then the Knicks obviously would have won a championship with him. But if you want to get a good player, you have to give up good things. And sure, the team that gets the best player always wins the trade. Like the Knicks, no matter what they really give up for Giannis, win the trade. But I don't think they're necessarily going to go any farther with Giannis versus if they just gut the roster. So yeah, I really don't think the Knicks are going to get Giannis. I do think Giannis will get traded out of Milwaukee if I had to bet on it right now. I just don't think it's going to be with the Knicks unless he again says, hey, look, just get me to New York. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I think the Bucks are going to try to get back what they can.